Hi, this is Bob Scully, and welcome to another edition of the World Show, Entrepreneurs, the Fiera Series. Finally, the house is ready. It's housewarming time, and you greet your guests at the door, and immediately you take them to the most important and best appointed room of the house. No, not the kitchen with the huge marble island in the middle, not the home theater downstairs with the plush seats and the popcorn machine. No. You take them straight to the bathroom, designed by Tomlin Group. So, of course, it's spectacular. Here's Jonathan Cloutier. Jonathan Cloutier, I did something a few minutes ago that I rarely do with any guest. I said to you, please go visit the bathroom.
Correct.
And you didn't walk out in a huff. You thought it was very good advice. Why did I say that?
Well, because you wanted to know whether or not our product was featured in this place. And oddly enough, that's one thing I often do in hotels that I visit or even homes that I'm a guest of. So I'm always fascinated by who the builder uses for product, who the designer may have selected. If it's not our product, I'd like to know. So.
And if it's a Tomlin bathtub or shower stall, do you let out a whoop? I mean, or you congratulate the owner?
I actually do. I do mention it. And if it's not to my liking, I also
tell them it's time to change.
Correct. Or in times, I hope they think of us. Yes, for sure.
And it's a fascinating world to begin with. When you read up on that, on bathtubs and showers, you learn a lot. But it's also an entrepreneurial story that's interesting.
Correct.
Let's go back then to how it started. Your father was in this business long ago,
yes,
but not for his own account. What was he doing?
He was actually started as a sales representative 30 years ago this year, and my father is a very passionate man, and in no time he actually was able to grow the business largely in Quebec, and then was asked to come to Ontario and do the same thing for the company that he worked at the time. So we ended up moving to Toronto in 1991, and same thing, developed the market in Ontario.
And bathtub, showers.
In the same field, that's correct. Yeah, bathtubs for the most part and showers at the same time, yes.
And at some point it was no longer to his satisfaction.
No, again, being so passionate, he felt that it was probably time for him to either do the same thing somewhere else. But deep down, I think he had the urge of doing it himself. He had a vision. He knew what he wanted to do, what needed to be done in the industry, and where there might have been a void that he could perhaps fill.
And, of course, confidence is a key in entrepreneurship.
Correct.
But it's not magic. He did have to find the money.
Yes.
Did he go cap in hand to a banker? Did he have to mortgage his house? Or?
Yeah, he had to. Yeah, banks weren't there to help him because he had nothing other than a good secure job. He had not much to go by. My father had been in the business of building homes, so he was able to build some equity within the home and use some of it to leverage the acquisition of the company. But he still needed help and was able to find it within family members.
And he's not the first to have done that. It's a classic entrepreneurial situation. It often leads to friction.
Correct. Because
the company you've left, you're now competing with.
Correct.
And I think this one sent a mean letter at some point.
Yes, 6 months into it, he actually got a lawyer's letter, saying that he was not to approach any of the current employees of his former employer. That he wasn't to go in after the business that he had built, and that he had to pretty much stay out of sight for a long time. And so he got worried, obviously, because he left on his own, so there was no...
But was that true? Because there are non-competing agreements in some contracts,
yes,
but not always.
Well, he had no contract because he had been there since day one. He was one of the original members.
So they probably didn't have a right to say that.
Correct, but they were big enough to scare him, and he didn't want to take any chances, so he ended up hiring one of the most expensive lawyers in Toronto to protect himself, and I think had to cut a check for close to $1,000 for an hour consultation to ask what he should do. And again, $1,000 when you're starting up is not $1,000 that
it's
you
like
have
$1 million
in the budget.
When you don't have it. Yeah.
Correct. So this lawyer told him, say, they really don't have any right, but if they want to take you to court, it's going to cost you a lot more money than they're probably that you're willing to spend. And for them, it's nothing. It's short change. So I would recommend that you lay low And if you do meet people from the industry, that you have them sign a waiver that you're not actively pursuing their business. And so he did, actually wrote up a draft letter, which he took to various partners and said, listen, I'm not here to try to steal business away from you. I'm just here to let you know where I'm at, what I want to do, and hoping that we can work together down the road. And that's what he did. And after a year, he was able to sort of get back into it a little bit more aggressively.
And so what he had to do was much harder. It was a greenfield. In other words, his experience was valuable, but none of the contacts could be used.
Correct.
That made it much, much tougher,
Yes.
I would think.
Yes. And again, what you have in the business plan, we hadn't forecasted to have this letter come through and have them put sort of the brakes on what we were trying to accomplish, although there was a lot of work to be done. So that actually worked out in our favor, to be honest with you, because it enabled us to make sure that we addressed what needed to be addressed internally and then hit the road once we were a little bit more ready to hit the road.
And sometimes there's a poetic justice to these things where the people who are sending you mean letters see that you're succeeding and they come back and they want to buy you, or they want to, they want to make peace.
Correct. Yes.
Did that happen?
Yes, you do get the conversations in time. I would tell you that it probably took 5-6 years before it's starting to happen. But people knew right from the get-go that we would succeed. It was just a matter of how long it would take us to get to where we needed to get. And what my father had acquired was far from what he had seen on paper. It was a lot more work that needed to be done, and obviously delayed some of the growth that we had anticipated.
So he acquired in Waterloo,
Correct.
which is south of Toronto, on the way to Michigan.
Yeah.
He acquired a company that was a going concern.
Yes.
And there he had no problem. They had clients and so on.
Correct. Very local business, clean reputation. Had a product line to hit the market with, had a manufacturing structure in place. We didn't have to start from scratch. I mean, the cost to get into this business was tremendous if you were to start from scratch. And that business enabled us to have something like a cash flow to get by. But as I tell people, when we acquire the business, it's like buying a house. You get the inspector to come through, you do the due diligence, and then you move into the house and realize that I didn't see that crack. Well, this is falling apart. And we lived that through the business acquisition.
They were selling for a reason. It's always the same old story.
Correct, exactly.
There's a buyer and a seller.
Correct, yes.
And how tough a business is it? I mean, when something is so essential,
Yes.
That's good because it
Correct.
ensures demand, but it also leads to commoditizing very often where prices are driven downward. And yet this is a big enough commodity
Yes.
that I would assume that it's not entirely a commodity. I mean, there's a lot of markup in there perhaps for high quality work. Yeah. What kind of business is it?
Well, it was, I would tell you that when we acquired the business, it was known as a commodity product line, and our strengths wasn't commodity. But we had to work with what we were given at the time. And we knew that through the years we would have to expand that product offering to get out of the commodity market. So we wouldn't have to fight on price. And we wanted to tell a story, provide a quality product, and something that was different, something that hadn't been seen, then again, as I mentioned earlier, that could fill some voids. And the beautiful thing with our business is, as you mentioned, it is segmentized into commodity. But through downtimes, people will renovate rather than perhaps buy new. And then when the economy is good and people tend to renovate less, they tend to buy newer homes. So we're able to offset some of these changes as the economy changes, and we're able to sort of waver through the last 15 years doing so, and by expanding our product offering.
And I know that I'm trying to think back, have people ever told me about renovating their bathroom? They talk more about the kitchen, but obviously the bathroom is as important. But you don't often hear of somebody, you hear about somebody buying a new stove, a new fridge, a new butcher block, but not so much a new bathtub. They might buy a nice house, and then they're very particular about the bathroom. But is it a hard sell to convince people to change their bathtub?
Well, it's changing. As you mentioned, the kitchen is often the first thing you see when you walk into someone's house. You hang around the kitchen table when you have dinner party. You don't hang out in the ensuite. So, the bathrooms are becoming a bigger factor with the home design taking wave the way it's been going the last few years. A lot more attention is dedicated to the bathroom environment for obvious reasons. We live in a faster paced environment.
Yeah.
So people that do get into the bathroom and want to, this oasis will want to make sure that they spend quality time and they enjoy the experience. So they will upgrade some of the fixtures and make sure that they feel like they're at the spa for that 30 minutes that they give themselves. So the bathroom aspect, and whatever you invest in your bathroom, you'll get back when you sell your house. It's never, whatever you put in will never be lost, just like your kitchen.
And what is it with this? I will share a personal bit of outrage with you. What is it with this trend in hotels to do away with the bath and keep only the shower stall? I realize a shower stall takes less space and et cetera, but it used to be that in a hotel you would have a bath. You could not have a bath, but now it's going the other way.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's many factors that come into play. Some could be related to a cost factor. It might be cheaper to put in a shower tray than a full bath. But times are changing, as I said. People tend to shower a little bit more. We live in a fast-paced environment, so people that come into hotels nowadays come in and out. They don't spend the time perhaps that they did spend 10, 15 years ago. You might see a little bit more bath into a ski resort.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But in the city, you tend to see a little bit more shower trays and glass enclosures than bath because people won't have as much time as they did in the past.
And when you try to innovate and fight commoditization, what do you work on? Is it the material, the color, the size, the design?
Correct. So we pay a lot of attention to what people tell us. We've done exhibits, we've done shows, we've talked to designers and architects, and we listen to what people tell us. To me, it's a market analysis, so if you don't pay attention, then you're going to miss out. So sizes have changed over time. Again, we tend
bigger or smaller?
Smaller, actually. So they're going with bigger showers. Again, because we shower more, so they want a bigger space. They'll minimize the bath because if you do have a family, you do need a bath. So for resale purposes, it's important to keep that in mind. So smaller bath, shower trays. Minimalistic is big. So what you used to see as a big cumbersome bathroom, now you're going to see a freestanding vessel, perhaps a stand-alone shower, and perhaps a small bath. That becomes, the nice thing with a bath, it's become a piece of furniture in the bathroom. People walk in now and they see this freestanding piece, and it becomes the focal point of your bathroom. So people take a lot of pride in showcasing their houses to guests. Come and see my new bathroom and then see this piece of
a little
art.
Stairway, sometimes you've got a step or two to get
Correct.
in.
And we've gone towards finer materials. As you said, certain type of materials have become commoditized, and we wanted to expand that product offering and get into the finest material that we could find, whether it was a quartz stone to cast iron.
Yeah, the cast iron is the old model.
But, vintage is back. So we're bringing some of the old materials that used to be sturdy. I mean, if you've picked up a typewriter from the early 1900s, they used to weigh a ton. The new ones don't weigh as much, right? So we've gone back to this approach where, people want to make sure that what they invest in gives them joy and obviously a long-lasting life, because most people that do renovate now will stay in their bathroom for years to come. They don't see themselves. If I look at the baby boomers and in talking to them, most of them don't want to go into a retirement home. They want to stay in their home for many years to come. So they don't want to be associated with these type of institutionalized product, and they will invest money.
And to get back to the entrepreneurial aspect, when your father, through friends and so on, got a bit of money together to start, and then picked up from there, did you reach a point of relative self-financing, or did you have a bank manager, and a credit line, and the plug might be pulled, and did you go through that whole scenario? Yeah,
the first year the bank wasn't really happy with the outcome because, within the first week of him acquiring the business, the lift truck blew up. And there goes $30,000 in the budget that we didn't think was needed.
How come it blew up?
It was just an older piece of equipment, just like most of the manufacturing facility that we had acquired. As I said, everything that was on paper was not really what was to be believed. So the company had been grandfathered for years. And my father, when he says, there was probably 30 companies in the country when we acquired the company, and he goes, I think we purchased number 40. So that's how far we came. So having said that, we had to come up with frugal innovations to get to where we needed, because the bank wasn't really there to help us at the time.
But did the bank pay for the new lift truck?
Cash flow did that.
Oh, okay.
But then at the end of the year, we had a cash shortage, as you may imagine. So the bank believed in what we were trying to build and gave us a hand to get to where we needed to be. But as that occurred, we expanded into the shower enclosure business, and that really helped us, to be honest with you, save the company. If it hadn't been for my father's innovation in adding shower enclosure to the product offering, I don't think we'd be where we're at today.
So the previous company had never thought of doing showers? It seems kind of logical.
Well, they did to a certain degree, but they were buying through a third-party company, so the margins weren't there for us to resell the product. The quality was not up to our liking, so we had to come up with a line that we felt could fill the void in the shower enclosure business. And from that moment on, it just took off for us, and then we started making a lot of headwaves in places that perhaps a year before we didn't think we could make headwaves, because we didn't have the product offering that needed to compete against the bigger companies. And a lot of people told my father, come back when you have a real product offering, come back when you have real marketing. And
that's not easy to hear.
It's not easy to hear. So again, we had to come up with ways, as I said, frugal innovations to be creative with very little.
And in this business model, who is the client? Is it the builders of homes or the individual?
Yes, there's many segments. You do have the builder segment, you do have the home buyer, and now you have the designers and architects that are getting involved in that process much more than ever. And these people will often buy through a distribution network of
And they'll
high-end.
specify your product if they want.
Correct, yes.
So you're trying to make, obviously, a sale to a home builder developing in a whole neighborhood is more fun than retail, I would assume.
Yeah, well, the retail aspect of the business is handled by our third-party distributors.
Okay.
So we do deal with a network of people that are knowledgeable, that do care about the product that they partner up with. So our job is to make sure that we get spec, that the designers and architects do ask for the product, and we've reached a stage where now we do get spec'd, we do get asked to supply our product, whereas 15 years ago, it was a challenge to get to that point.
To be on the map.
Correct, yes.
But does it happen that you make a nice sale and you lock up the entire development that a developer is doing?
Yes.
So how many houses would that be?
Well, it can be anywhere from 50 homes to 350 homes
Now,
to
you
500
certainly have
homes.
some champagne when you do that. Have a bath put some champagne in the bath.
Yes, it's actually nice. I mean, we've picked up a few projects south of the border in New York City and Manhattan. We've done, some very famous hotel projects with, 550 units. So it really depends on the projects. To me, a 30-unit project can be as good as a 500-unit project. When you get into the smaller project, people will tend to focus more maybe on providing something that's quite different and unique than perhaps a commodity product.
And again, poetic justice. Do you ever run into even though you made up, run into the company that your father started?
Yes.
In trade shows and so on, and you
Yes.
sort of glance at each other? Does that happen?
Yeah, it's a small industry, so people see what's been done, trade shows are often where people see where you've elevated your game, where you're at in terms of positioning within the industry. And through the years, in the early years, we couldn't afford to be at exhibit shows. I would go and walk the show and see what the competition did. Now we're doing trade shows where the competition comes up and see what we've done. And again,
Yeah, of course.
even to this day, we're quite frugal with what we do. We want to make sure that we send the right message, and we do it well. And we sell a lifestyle, we sell a beautiful product, and we want to showcase it in that same manner.
And final question is what we call our French chef question. When we've had these famous chefs on, we often ask them, okay, what's in your fridge? What do you eat?
Yes.
And we get surprising answers.
Yes.
And so when you go to a hotel and it's not your product,
Yes.
you're testing it, right? When you take your shower or a
Yes.
bath, you're testing it. Are you a very hard to please, and do you shake it and take it apart, or?
Yes, I've done that many times, whether I've been in Vancouver or New York or even in Europe for that matter. I look at what the product is. I'll test it. I'll take pictures. Yeah, and again, you can get some ideas. You know, if something has been done and you feel they could be done better, then I do express. I was in a hotel in New York City and I was disappointed in the product that had been put in because for my first concern was my safety. I said, if I feel that I'm not really safe in this environment, imagine if a family was here and something bad happened. So I actually got in touch with the builder right after and I said, you know, next time you look or consider renovating your bathrooms, I would be more than happy to give you a hand and assist you in that project.
Did he place an order?
Well, they had just done the renovation, so I think we're probably a few years away, but they've got our contacts and we're following up with them to make sure that we're able to supply a better product when it's time.
Well, Jonathan Cloutier, I won't be able to be in the shower anymore without thinking of this interview. So great stuff, and long life to you and to Tomlin.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
And to your father and to your brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Jonathan Cloutier, and now here's something else coming up on the World Show.
We investing our own money in the mutual funds that we run. The people that work at Pembroke are the largest, collectively the largest shareholders in our mutual funds. We encourage, in fact, we demand that people that work at our organization put their money into our mutual funds. We will never invest in a company if the chief executive officer does not have a major personal commitment in terms of the ownership of that company. That's what we insist upon in terms of making an investment, because we think that governance issues are better looked after by people looking after their own money. Very seldom will a person intentionally try to rob from a company if he or she is a big shareholder in the company. So we encourage all of our people to invest substantially in the funds that we run. We want to be investor with our client. We don't want to be making money from our clients. We want to be making money with our clients. So the name of the game at Pembroke is you want to come and work there. It's a great place to work. You'll have a lot of fun, but you've got to put your money up. And when you get your bonus, we want to see a substantial part of that bonus go into the funds. I think it reassures our clients that we're with them. You know, in the end, it's all about the people, and that's the hardest part to check out. So the reason we visit before we invest is to see the people in their own area of operation. You pick up all kinds of little things. You know, is the place neat and tidy? Are the people seeming to get along well together? Is the individual that's running the business, is he passionate? Is he totally committed? Does he make sense? What do the local people in the community think? That's a big part of what we do.
So you get that by going to the tavern? You get some intelligence?
We typically don't get it from going to the tavern, but generally we will know people that live in almost all the principal cities in North America. We've traveled so extensively. There'll be other fund managers that we talk to that will call us up if they want to get an idea about investing in a Canadian company. We will call them up and say, look, you know, we've just been to Nashville. We've seen a company we're really excited about. Do you know these people? And very often they'll say, we know the people. They're the biggest bogus people that you can ever run across. Don't touch them with a 10-foot pole. That's the end of the conversation. But most often they'll say, we know these people, we know them well, we've dealt with them over a long period of time, highly regarded in the community, they're great people. We've got our own money invested in this company, go. If you're going to be investing in small to medium-sized companies, you are going to make mistakes. The important thing is to recognize that you're going to make mistakes and to admit that you're making a mistake and to take as small a loss as possible after you recognize that you've made a mistake. The worst thing for us to do is to hang on because you want to prove that you're right in the first place and lose more and more and more money. Because it becomes pretty obvious, especially to people that are a little more objective than you are, that you've picked a bum stock. And I have great partners that remind me all the time about the stock that I bought that was supposed to do such and hasn't, and they'll come back and say, now Ian, what do you think? And it's, you have to recognize that. But the biggest mistakes we make are not the errors of commission. They're heirs of omission.
Jonathan Cloutier was our guest this week on Entrepreneurs, the Fiera series of the World Show. I'm Bob Scully. Have a great week. Thanks.